Kevin is the Executive Director of Open Doors for Lanark Children and Youth. He's also the Vice Chair of the Planet Youth Steering Committee, and he's going to give us some of his observations from a mental health perspective on the survey data. Thank you, Kevin. Kevin, I think you can just advance it.
Okay.
With that.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. It's really a pleasure to be here in front of you this evening and to share what I think are some interesting tidbits that have come out of the research that was recently conducted here in Lanark County. And I do want to express Ambassador Gudjonson's stories about what it means to be able to come from a small community and to observe and participate and be a product of that evolution towards health, and which just fit in so nicely with Dr. Lee's comments that we really want to take at the positivity, what is possible, and work toward the strength of our community in order to affect the kinds of change that we have within the vision of Planet Youth Lanark County. So it's just an honor to speak after you, because you touched on so many wonderful points that touch my very way of viewing the world and the work that we do at Open Doors for Lanark Children and Youth. So I just want to share with you that village that has been alluded to. It starts with the child. And the child is surrounded with family, which is in turn surrounded by neighborhood, which is in turn surrounded by community. It's all embedded within our experience, and it's those rich resources that we look to be able to advance the kinds of healthy futures that we want to achieve together for children and youth within our community. Whoops. Am I going the right way here? Wrong way. There you go. Whoop. Sensitive. My goodness. Just to give a sense of the kinds of data that our youth willingly shared with us. Isn't that wonderful? That they trust us so much that they willingly shared this with us. I'm not going to bother reading the slides to you. You can observe them yourselves, but it gives you a sense of what 15 and 16-year-old lived experience is within Lanark County. This in particular takes a look at some issues of substance use related to alcohol, related to cigarettes, e-cigarettes, and to cannabis use. What might be surprising to you is if you look at the top number under substance use, and 33% tried alcohol at age 13 or younger. And we know from the data that what happens is that if you begin your exposure to alcohol earlier, there's a higher probability of having a harmful relationship as you move through your life. So this would be of concern. This is a warning sign to us. It's the canary in the mine that we have to take a look at some of the way that we are as a community doing things with our youth. These slides are very hard to read from this distance, so I'll just pull this up. Thank you. So when we look at the notion of being embedded within our social context and substance use of youth, when we look at, well, how much time are they actually spending with their parents? And if you look at this particular slide, where Lanark County in purple is almost never, rarely, or sometimes, and often, and almost always relates in the gray area, we see that substance use is quite a bit lower whenever there's that good engagement with parents. Something to think about. Whoops, wrong way again. And what about, well, if you're not with parents, do your parents know where you are? Again, if we have that connection, that engagement between our parents and our youth, there's a greater likelihood of them engaging in health-giving, or at least not health negating kinds of activities that are going on within the community. Excuse me. Which way? Again, if we look at the kinds of activities that their peers are working with, and we all know about social pressure, peer pressure within adolescence. So if the peers that they're hanging out with are getting involved in substance use, is that likely to influence and inform the kinds of behaviors that that particular youth is going to get involved in? And again, if you look at this, Lanark County, most of my friends are getting involved in substances, and lo and behold, in fact, those youth are getting more involved in substances as well. Going the right way? No, sorry, wrong way. So if they're hanging out with friends and they're hanging out where parents know where they are, or they're actually with their parents over the weekends, what kinds of activities are our youth getting involved in that might be suggested to be risk factors or protective factors, depending upon what the particular activity is? And you can see that there's an awful lot of social media use. There's an awful lot of gaming use, video gaming use going on. And we know that that kind of can isolate you. You may be involved in a social engagement, but you're not actually within a social engagement. You're going through an electronic medium that is that you're able to communicate through. However, are you truly engaged? Are you truly attached in some kind of relationship with those individuals whenever you are participating? The other thing that I just want to bring to your attention here, excuse me, is that it really does influence the kinds of activities that they're doing. If you're playing video games, you're not getting out into nature. You're not being able to engage in pro-health, pro-mental health activities within our natural environment. So there's some additional risk factors to our mental health in these data as well. Are they taking advantage of being out and in organized leisure activities, or are they just kind of going out? And what they're telling us that there isn't a whole lot of organized leisure activity that our youth are involved in. There's an awful lot of free time. And again, looking at physical activity, and substance use, if you are being more laid back, if you're being more passive in your engagement of life, there's a higher correlation with the kinds of substances that we've been expressing or talking about this evening. So I just want to wrap up and take a look at the notion of sleep, something that parents can influence with regard to their children, the amount of sleep that a child would have during the evening. And we do know that more sleep is associated with health. And if you look at the relationship between youth who get 7 or fewer hours of sleep in the evening versus those who are receiving or getting 8 hours of sleep in the evening, when they're asked the question, would you say that you are happy, and would you endorse that for yourself? And if you look at this, there are 42, those who sleep 8 hours, 42 out of 100 we could expect would say, based on our data, would say, yeah, I'm happy. Conversely, for those who are getting 7 hours or less, it's 18 youth who would say that they're happy. So a simple thing like sleep that can be so easily influenced within the family. If you take a look at, am I using cannabis within the last 30 days? And I'm a person who gets 7 hours or less sleep. We might expect that we would have 20 youth from our data who would have partaken of cannabis during the 30 days. And if they got 8 hours of sleep or more, that drops down to 15. So when we think about the health that Dr. Lee spoke to, that it's all-encompassing. We're talking here about being within a social context where there's opportunity for physical activity, good sleep habits, positive relationships with peers, positive relationships with family, and opportunity to engage in pro-social activities. From a mental health perspective, Planet Youth is informing us that as a community, we might have some opportunities here to do better. And that's where I wanted to take us to this evening.